Hey there, in this quick tip video, we're going to talk about attributes in Unity and especially the ones that can be used to organize the inspector. The manual says that attributes in C# are metadata markers that can be placed above a class, property, or method declaration to indicate special behavior. And in fact, not only that, you can place attributes in method parameters as well and a lot of other places, for example, in enum values. Here you have a list of all the attributes in the Unity engine. So if we click here, we get the first attribute, which is add component menu. Then we get the whole list of attributes that you can use. We have a character here, which is made of a lot of objects. And if I click somewhere on the character, now I'm selecting the root object, and I was lucky here, but if I click somewhere else, for example, on the hands of the character, I'm going to select the lower arm L object. So this object is a bone of the character, and it has a capsule collider and a rigid body. So I want to click on the character and select the root object every time. Let's go to a script on the root object of the character. For example, here I have the scavenger script, and here I have my class declaration. The attribute that I want to talk about is SelectionBase. So as soon as I add SelectionBase here, and let's save the project and go back to Unity. Now let's click somewhere to deselect the character, and then let's click again on the hand or the foot of the character. Even though I clicked on the collider here on the hand, I'm still selecting the root object, and this has been achieved thanks to the SelectionBase attribute. But here in my character, I do have a bone renderer from the animation rigging package, and this will interfere with the SelectionBase attribute. So if we have the character deselected, and if I click on the bone here, I'm still going to select the bone, but that's just because of the bone renderer. Let's disable it here and let's try it again. So I'm going to click on the hand, and as you can see here, the root object has been selected. So here I have an object, let's call it my amazing object, and I created a script, let's call it my amazing script, and we're going to add some random fields to the script. Let's add a public string player name, and let's set it to Grand Theft Zebra or GTZ, a member of the channel. Okay, let's add our script to our object here, and since player name is public, you can see that we can see it in the inspector. And again, if you're a beginner, this is called serialization. In Unity, public fields are serialized, but private, protected, and internal fields are not. When I was learning to use Unity, I naively set all my fields to public, all the fields that I wanted to edit in the inspector. But this actually breaks encapsulation. In a real game dev project or even a software project, you want your classes to be black boxes that you can only access through, for example, methods. You don't want to give necessarily access to your fields here. For example, here, instead of having a public string player name, we can have it as a private field here, or protected, or even internal. We can add the attribute SerializeField. And by doing this, then Unity will still display this field in the inspector without necessarily having it as a public field in our code, thus breaking encapsulation. We have the DisallowMultipleComponent. The Unity editor will notify you if you're trying to add multiple instances of this component to the same game object. So here we already have a component. Let's add a new one here. So the Unity editor will say, can't add my amazing script to my amazing object because my amazing script is already added to the game object. And let's see another attribute here, and in fact here we can add multiple attributes using multiple square brackets here, or we can add a comma here, then add another attribute next to it. So here let's add a RequireComponent attribute. This is quite a common one. You can require that a component is present on the game object, and we need to give it our type. And to actually get the type of a component, we can say type of, and then between parentheses, we can say, for example, box collider, and we can do multiple of these. So box collider, and then, for example, rigid body. If you already have your script on your game object, adding these after adding the script will not do much. But if we don't have our component here, as soon as we add it here to the game object, we will have all the other components that are required. They will be automatically added by the Unity editor. And here, what's amazing is if we try to remove a component, the Unity editor will complain. We will have this dialog, can't remove rigid body because my amazing script depends on it. However, this attribute could be problematic. Let's create a new script called the bee's knees. So we're going to require component here, type of my amazing script, and then we're going to do the same on my amazing script. So let's remove the requirement on rigid body and box collider, and let's replace it by the bee's knees. So we have a circular requirement. So here in my amazing object, let's add the bee's knees. All right. So now we've fallen into the trap. Let's try to remove the bee's knees. It will tell us, no, you can't do it because my amazing script depends on it. And if I try to remove my amazing script, it will say, no, the bee's knees depends on it. So you have to be careful to only use this sparingly. Don't abuse it. So here, the only way that we can remove these components is to go back to the script and remove the RequireComponent attribute from both scripts. Let's add an integer player age. And by the way, the fact that I write the attributes before the variables is not relevant. I can do it like so. So this is just a quick way to do it in the same line, but you can also do it like so. And here, let's add another component. So here my player age will be displayed like so, but what I actually want is a slider. We can use a range attribute and we can give it the mean value and the max value, and it works for floats and also for integer values. Let's say we want the age to be between 12 and 99, and now our field is drawn as a slider. Let's add an integer money and let's set it to 120. And let's say we don't want money to go below 0. So let's add another attribute here, min, and let's set the minimum to 0. Let's add a public string nickname. Let's say we want to change this from the outside, from another script. And usually when I have public fields or properties, I start the name with a capital letter. So I'm going to rename it here to nickname with a capital N. Naturally, since this is a public field, the Unity editor will display it in the inspector. Let's say we don't want this to happen. We want to have a public field, but not display it here. What we can do is add another attribute, HideInInspector. This way, you will still have access to the public field, but it will not be displayed here in the inspector. Let's add another string here, biography. And if we display it normally, a field here might not be enough to write something quite long. So here, if it's one sentence, it's okay. But if we want a bigger text field, we can add here the multiline attribute. And this will display a text field with at least 3 lines here. We do have a parameter for the number of lines, and the default is 3. Let's say we want the default to be 10. Now we get this, which is enough space to write a couple of paragraphs. And if you want something more advanced with scroll bars and a flexible text area, here we can add a text area property instead of the simpler multiline property. And here we can specify the minimum number of lines and maximum lines. So let's say the minimum lines is 10 and the maximum is 100. Then we get something like this. And I'm going to paste some long text here. And you can see here that the height of this text area is flexible. And if we go back to our code, if I set the text area to be between 3 and 20 or even 10, then the height of the flexible area will be limited and we get this scroll bar, so we can edit our text here. Now let's add an enum here. Let's call it eCharacterClass, and we have some values here. If we add a field of type eCharacterClass, let's add it here below player name. Let's call it CharacterClass, and we get a drop down here with the values of our enum, but we don't actually have control over the names here. These are the names of the values literally. We can actually change the display here of these values. We can use here an inspector name attribute on the values of our enums, and we also have inspector order, and this will change the order of the enum values. All right, so let's use inspector name and let's give it our display name here, mage fire, and let's do the same for the other values here. This is mage ice, and Mage Chaos, you can see that we have the proper display names here, which is great. Now in the actual field here, character class, we can add another attribute here. It's called Enum buttons. Let's see how it looks in Unity. Instead of the drop-down menu, we have buttons for each value of the enum. Obviously, if you have a lot of values here, this will not be very practical. Now let's talk about some attributes that can organize your inspector, because the inspector here can get quite crowded. We can actually organize it using headers and spaces. So here, let's add a header. Let's call it basic attributes. And down here, let's add another header. Let's call it inventory. And at the bottom, let's add another header and let's call it backstory. And just to add a little bit more properties here, I'm going to add a float, carried weight, and a boolean, for example. And in backstory, perhaps we can add some other elements here. All right, now let's go back to Unity. Our variables here are organized underneath these headers. So we have basic attributes, and then above the header we have a little bit of space. Then we have inventory, then we have backstory, and we can use not only header but also a space attribute to further add spaces here between these attributes. Let's say we want to add a space after player name. So let's add a space attribute, and between parentheses we can actually define the height that we want the space to be. Let's say 15 pixels. And let's also add a space here before the biography. And let's set it to 30 pixels. In the inspector, you can see we have a space here of 15 pixels. And here we have a space of 30 pixels. Unity gives us the opportunity to not only serialize fields but also properties. Let's say we have a property here, experience level, with a get and set. To serialize this, we need to type field colon then serialize field, and in the inspector it will look like this. So we may have the impression that this is a simple field, but actually it is a property. Now let's say the game is running and we want to modify this property, for example, carried weight, and we want to set it to a number. So here I can click here, then hit backspace, and then start typing a number, for example, 130. And while I'm doing this, maybe some things here in the game will go wrong because they will be using an empty value, which is by default, I believe it is set to 0, but I'm not sure. But in any case, there are a lot of scenarios where you don't want the value here to be applied directly. You want to have a little breathing room to type a value, for example, 90, and then hit enter for this value to be applied. And in order to achieve this, we can use the delay attribute. So on my carried weight, let's add another attribute here, delayed. And you will not see anything here, but if you have something running and you change the value here, then the value will only be applied after you hit enter. Or I believe if you click away, for example, if you give the focus to something else, then it is going to be applied, but it's not going to be applied as you're typing the value, which is quite handy in a lot of situations. We can actually set a tooltip here. When we hover over the label of the variable, let's go to player name and add a tooltip attribute here. Tooltip, we can say this is the given name of the character. And when the mouse cursor is over the label of the field, we can see our tooltip here. This is the given name of the character. And this is great if you want to document your fields and properties. I'm briefly going to talk about the add component menu. This attribute is great in case you want to add your scripts through the add component menu here. You can specify here a folder. So for example, here we have Cinemachine. If we click here, we have subfolders. So you can define all of this hierarchy. We also have the color usage attribute, and this is handy if you have a color field and you want to enable the HDR field of the color, which is quite handy for emission. We have the default execution order attribute, which you can add to a class to specify the execution order of that class. But if you go into the project settings and actually set an execution order for your script, this attribute here will be ignored, and we have the execute always attribute, which can be added to a monobehavior class. This is great and will allow your script to be executed at runtime and also in the prefab mode. And here we have more details about what happens to the awake method, to the update method. So for example, the awake method is called whenever you open a scene with that component, and the update is called every redraw of the scene view or the game view. So far, we've seen attributes that will work on fields and also on our class, but to actually get some functionality out of the script and expose it here in the inspector. And by this, I mean executing a method on our script. Let's have a method here, void increase money. It's important that the method doesn't have parameters. Let's use the context menu attribute, and we can give it a name that will be displayed in the context menu of the script. Here, let's type increase money, and here in the method, let's do money plus equals 100. On our component, we can access the context menu by right-clicking here on the header of the script, or by going here to these three dots. So we have our increase money here. If we click on it, then the money will increase by 100. Let's right-click, increase money again. I have another quick tip video that talks about editing the values of your script through code and the fact that this may not save the changes in your script. So you should see that. Now let's do something interesting here. Let's create a method that will return a boolean. Let's call it can increase money, and we're going to return money lower or equal to 500. And here we're going to use the same context menu attribute. However, we're going to set the second parameter, which is validate function. We're going to set it to true, and this way we're going to tell the Unity editor that in fact this is a validate function, and this will control whether the item in the context menu is active or not. Now if we right click on the inspector and increase money beyond a point, so here the money will reach 500, will exceed in fact 500. If you right click here, you can see that the menu item here is disabled. I can no longer click on it. Now, in addition to context menu, we have context menu item, which is applied to fields here. Let's add it here to our player age. And here the first parameter is the name of the item that's going to be displayed. And the second parameter is actually the function name that we need to define. So let's go down here and define a void randomize age. So here we're going to set the age, player age, to a random value using random range between 12 and 100. All right, let's save. Now, if we right click on player age, we have our item here, randomize. If I click on it, then I get a random value. Let's right click again, randomize, I get another random value. So in addition to the script itself, each item here has its own context menu that you can add items to. All right, this was hopefully a quick overview of attributes. I hope you learned something. I made this video honestly as a reference for myself and for some members on our Discord server who have requested it. So I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something new. And if you have some cool attributes that you're using all the time and that I didn't mention here, then please tell me about it in the comment section below. I love these attributes that can save time and make the inspector more useful. All right, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe for more quick tips like this, share the video with a friend, and talk to you soon.